The major crisis just escalated from professional embarrassment to existential threat. Meghan Markle is facing the kind of disaster that ends careers, destroys reputations, and potentially leads to criminal charges. Netflix, tired of vague promises and carefully managed PR about Sussex content performance, finally demanded what should have been required from day one: real, independently verified, auditable audience numbers. Not the social media impressions Archewell kept citing, not the carefully selected snapshots making projects look successful. Actual streaming data showing how many people watched, how long they watched, whether they finished episodes, and whether content drove the subscriber growth Netflix paid millions to generate. And when those real numbers came in, when the gap between claim and reality became undeniable, Meghan's brand didn't just take a hit, it collapsed completely. We're talking about documented fraud on a scale that has Netflix legal using terms like material misrepresentation and exploring whether they have grounds to claw back millions already paid. Projects that Meghan claimed reached tens of millions, watched by hundreds of thousands. Engagement, supposedly industry-leading, falling below cancellation thresholds. Content marketed as prestige programming, performing worse than reality shows made for a fraction of the budget. The crisis isn't just about bad numbers, it's about systematic deception over extended period with clear financial motivation. And now, every partnership, every deal, every claim Meghan ever made about her reach is being scrutinized under harsh light of proof she was lying the entire time. The crisis began when Netflix Analytics ran standard audit comparisons between Archewell's performance reports and Netflix's actual back-end data. What they found was staggering enough to trigger immediate legal review. The documentary Meghan's team claimed reached 42 million viewers globally. Netflix's data showed 4.1 million unique views, with completion rate under 35%. That's not estimation error, that's claiming 10 times actual audience. The children's content positioned as groundbreaking, so poorly received in testing that Netflix killed additional episodes without release, eating millions in development losses. The podcast integration promising multimedia synergy, fewer than 180,000 click-throughs, despite claims of massive cross-platform engagement. Every project showing same pattern, astronomical claims meeting catastrophic performance. And when Netflix started comparing those patterns against contract negotiations where Archewell presented audience projections, they realized those projections were built on the same inflated methodology, meaning the entire deal might have been procured through fraud. The major crisis exploded when Netflix sent formal demand letter to Archewell requiring full explanation of their reporting methodology. The letter, portions leaked within 48 hours, was surgical in its precision, listed specific claims, documentary viewership, social media engagement, demographic reach, and demanded source data, calculation methodology, and third-party verification for each. Archewell took nearly a month to respond, and when response came, it was disaster. Vague mentions of industry-standard practices without explaining what those were. References to social media analytics and earned media value without clarifying those weren't actual viewers. Admissions that some numbers included people who started content without finishing. Each explanation making the deception more obvious rather than less. Because entertainment professionals know the difference between impressions and views, between reach and engagement, between people who saw promotional materials and people who actually watched content. Archewell was counting everything that made numbers look good while hiding everything revealing the truth. The brand collapse accelerated when Netflix commissioned independent audit from entertainment analytics firms specializing in fraud detection. The audit findings, inevitably leaked to trade publications, were devastating. Systematic inflation across every metric. Viewership counting anyone who watched 30 seconds as complete view. Engagement, including negative social mentions as if positive. Demographic reach, aggregating everyone who could have potentially seen content rather than who actually did. The auditors used language like pattern of deceptive reporting and material misrepresentation across all projects, not terminology for honest mistakes, fraud indicators. And when those findings circulated through Hollywood, Meghan's brand went from damaged to radioactive overnight. Because if she lied to Netflix by 900%, what else did she lie about? Every partnership claim suddenly suspect, every audience metric potentially fabricated, every business relationship questionable. The crisis deepened as real numbers painted increasingly damaging picture. The documentary that was supposed to drive subscriptions actually lost them, data showing cancellations spiking in week following release. Content featuring Harry performed 40% worse than content without him, with focus groups calling him clearly scripted and uncomfortable to watch. Yet Archewell had positioned his royal background as premium value, justifying higher budgets. The reality was he hurt performance, while Meghan's team hid that fact and kept featuring him. The podcast that was integrated into content deal had completion rates so low that advertising partners demanded rate reductions for failing to deliver promised audience. Project after project, the pattern was identical. Big promises, massive spending, catastrophic performance, obscured by creative metrics and PR spin. Netflix executives feeling personally betrayed makes this crisis exponentially worse. They'd signed unproven producers based on celebrity and promised reach, defended the deal internally when early projects underperformed, given multiple chances to deliver content that worked, and got systematic deception in return. Leaked emails show executives using words like conned and played, suggesting personal anger beyond business disappointment. That emotion means this doesn't resolve quietly. Netflix wants industry to know they're victims of fraud, not partners in failure. And proving that requires public, adversarial, fully documented exposure of exactly how they were deceived. The crisis won't end with settlement. It'll end with courtroom or complete capitulation. The major crisis attracting legal scrutiny from multiple directions simultaneously. Netflix exploring whether initial deal was procured through misrepresentation. If Archewell presented fraudulent audience data to induce contract signing, that's potentially fraud, actionable for damages and clawback. IRS examining whether inflated metrics justified tax positions on development funds. California authorities investigating corporate governance violations. Federal prosecutors expressing interest in whether pattern constitutes wire fraud if false reports cross state lines. Each investigation forcing document production, depositions, testimony under oath. The crisis isn't just playing out in public opinion, it's heading toward actual courts with potential criminal consequences if investigators find what they're looking for. The financial implications are staggering in scale. If Netflix succeeds in clawback litigation, that's potentially tens of millions Meghan has to repay. Money almost certainly spent on Montecito Mansion, security, staff, legal fees from other scandals. If Netflix sets precedent that metrics were fraudulent, Spotify can explore recovery. WME might exit representation, citing material breach. Every commercial relationship becomes questionable when fundamental value, audience reach, is proven fabricated. The lifestyle costs millions annually. If income streams evaporate while facing 8-figure clawback demands, plus mounting legal fees from multiple investigations, the financial picture goes from difficult to catastrophic to potentially bankruptcy in months. The crisis destroyed credibility on every front simultaneously. If Meghan lied about Netflix numbers, did she lie about everything? Racism allegations get re-examined skeptically. Mental health claims questioned. Victimhood narrative analyzed as manipulation. Every sympathetic interview recontextualized as performance. Once proven to systematically misrepresent facts in major arena, people question everything you've ever said. And for someone whose brand was authentic truth-telling against institutional lies, getting exposed as the liar is terminal. The brand was brave honesty. The crisis revealed systematic deception. There's no rebranding that fixes that contradiction. You can't champion truth when you're proven deceiver. The palace reaction has been strategic vindication. They apparently knew about the Netflix problems for months through industry connections, but stayed quiet, not wanting to appear attacking. Now they're simply confirming when asked. Yes, we knew. Yes, we warned people claims didn't match reality. Yes, we documented everything. The subtext is brutal. We told you she couldn't be trusted. You dismissed us as racist or jealous. Now you're discovering we were right. That retrospective validation makes everyone who defended Meghan against palace skepticism reconcile being manipulated. Everyone who claimed palace was lying, confronting possibility they were the ones deceived. That adds another layer to brand collapse. The major crisis has cascading effects, multiplying damage. Charities partnered with Sussex brand facing donor questions. Media that ran favorable coverage criticized for inadequate investigation. Sussex squad defenders fracturing as they struggle to explain 42 million becoming 4.1 million. Everyone who vouched for or allied with Meghan now contaminated by association with fraud. And they're distancing simultaneously, creating death spiral where each organization's exit validates the next. The commercial partnerships still in discussion evaporated within days. Companies pulled endorsement offers overnight. Corporate lawyers advising association with documented fraud creates unacceptable liability. The revenue pipeline disappeared completely. The crisis revealed what many suspected. Meghan doesn't have actual audience at scale. She has name recognition from Harry, media coverage from controversy, social media followers that third-party analysis suggests are substantially fake. But actual people who watch her content, buy endorsed products, engage with projects, that audience doesn't exist at claimed scale. And in entertainment, you can't fake people actually watching. Streaming data doesn't lie. When it says 4.1 million instead of 42 million, that's objective reality destroying a brand built on subjective perception. Netflix demanded proof of influence. Meghan had only perception of influence. The collision is total brand destruction. The whistleblowers emerging from Archewell Productions transformed crisis from possible incompetence to apparent deliberate fraud. Former employees describing culture where they were told to make numbers tell the right story rather than reflect reality, where questioning inflated metrics led to marginalization, where Meghan personally reviewed and approved misleading reports. One provided emails showing Meghan asking for reports to be reframed more positively. Another described being instructed to count social impressions as actual views. These testimonies prove systematic, intentional deception if accurate. They strengthen Netflix's legal case enormously while destroying any benefit of doubt Meghan might claim. Whistleblowers with documentation saying she knew and approved the fraud. The industry WhisperNet response has been savage. Studio heads sharing Netflix numbers with competitors, agents warning clients away from Sussex Association, producers going public about how metrics they were shown don't match audit findings, entertainment lawyers circulating memos about legal risks of partnering with brands having documented fraud history. That informal blacklisting is more powerful than official because it's impossible to fight. No one to appeal to, just collective understanding that Meghan's brand is toxic and her team can't be trusted. Career-ending reputation damage through whispered warnings rather than public accusations. And it's already happened. She's unofficially blacklisted across Hollywood. The major crisis is unprecedented because of who Meghan is and what she claimed. Royal adjacent, globally famous, positioned as progressive voice against institutional power. The scale of platform and audacity of claims made the fraud more visible when exposed. This isn't minor influencer padding numbers. This is someone who pitched major corporations on cultural reach, then delivered fabricated metrics hiding catastrophic performance. The crisis unfolds on global stage with hundreds of millions watching. Each revelation, each whistleblower, each data leak adds another chapter to the collapse. And there's no bottom yet. More revelations coming, more investigations opening, more partnerships terminating. The brand won't survive this. That's clear now. You can survive scandal maintaining credibility. You can survive failure maintaining honesty. But you can't survive proven dishonesty about fundamental value proposition. Meghan sold authentic truth-telling with massive reach. Netflix proved she was neither authentic nor honest, and reach was fraction claimed. The contradiction is terminal. The brand doesn't get damaged, it gets destroyed. And the major crisis unfolding is just the process of everyone realizing simultaneously. The influence was never real, the metrics were always lies, the authentic voice was the biggest fraud of all. Netflix demanded real numbers. Meghan's entire business model was built on fake ones. And now she's facing the consequences, legal, financial, reputational, of building everything on lies that someone finally forced into the light. The streaming wars context amplifies this crisis beyond normal business dispute. In an environment where every platform fights desperately for subscribers and quality content, being associated with massive, documented fraud is career-ending for executives who sign deals. Multiple Netflix vice presidents reportedly facing internal reviews about why they approved Sussex content without adequate vetting. That creates personal, professional motivation to prove they were victims of deception rather than authors of bad judgment. Best way to prove deception is documenting every false claim, every inflated metric, every misleading representation. This isn't Netflix versus Meghan anymore. It's Netflix executives protecting their careers by making Meghan the unambiguous villain. And executives fighting for jobs are ruthless in ways corporations being diplomatic never are. The social media analytics Netflix commissioned revealed fraud extending beyond viewership numbers. Third-party firms analyzing Meghan's follower base found patterns consistent with massive bot purchases and engagement manipulation. Followers with zero other activity, engagement spikes disconnected from content releases, geographic distributions mismatching claim demographics, generic praise from accounts created days apart, organic engagement, real humans genuinely interested, estimated under 25% of total following. She'd been using social numbers that were 75% fake as proof of audience translating to Netflix viewership. But purchased followers don't watch shows. Bots don't complete content. The fraudulent social metrics used to secure deals delivered exactly 0 real viewers. Harry's role in the crisis adds devastating personal dimension to professional disaster. He'd apparently been told audiences loved his contributions. That military background and royal perspective drew viewers. But Netflix data showed opposite. Viewer sentiment toward Harry-focused content overwhelmingly negative. Focus groups coached, inauthentic, uncomfortable watching. Completion rates dropped 30–40% when he appeared versus episodes without him. He wasn't adding value, actively hurting performance. Meghan's team hid this for months while continuing to feature him, knowing audiences disliked it. The professional humiliation of discovering you're the problem while thinking you were the draw is crushing. Another crack in marriage already fracturing under too many exposed lies. The major crisis timing couldn't be worse because it's hitting while other scandals reach critical mass. Maxwell revelations about questionable associations, Archewell Foundation facing financial scrutiny, Palace investigating false vetting statements, multiple legal exposures converging, now Netflix proving systematic metrics fraud. Each scandal alone manageable with enough PR, but simultaneously they create pattern recognition, not bad luck, someone who lies about everything getting exposed on multiple fronts at once. Pattern recognition is devastating, makes people re-examine everything with skepticism, every claim suspect, every victim narrative potential manipulation, every tier becomes performance. The children emerged as particularly heartbreaking crisis subplot. Archie and Lilibet's images and stories were used in promotional materials and partnership pitches for deals secured through fraudulent metrics. The ethics of leveraging children to sell deals built on lies is being questioned by child advocacy groups. Palace's accelerating guardianship consultations aren't just about protecting lineage, they're about ensuring innocent children aren't further exploited by a mother whose judgment and honesty are documented as questionable. Legal protections discussed include Palace approval for commercial ventures involving children, public appearances, image usage in business contexts. Netflix's board, receiving regular briefings on Sussex disaster, created corporate accountability pressure layers. Board members demanding explanations. Why didn't due diligence catch inflated metrics before signing? Why didn't audit processes identify discrepancies earlier? Why weren't contractual protections against misrepresentation adequate? That board-level scrutiny means internal heads roll unless executives prove they were defrauded. Every corporate incentive pushes toward Netflix pursuing maximum legal action. This must be public, adversarial, fully documented to demonstrate to shareholders and directors that fault lies entirely with Sussex deception, not Netflix judgment or processes. The financial forensics teams found evidence beyond simple metrics inflation. Development money paid by Netflix to Archewell moving to other Sussex entities through transactions obscuring complete trail. Production budgets supposedly for content showing questionable documentation about actual expenditures. Invoices from vendors that can't be verified or contacted. Pattern raises questions extending beyond metrics fraud to potential misappropriation of Netflix's development funds. If production money diverted to personal expenses or unrelated ventures, that's criminal fraud, carrying serious prison time. Netflix's forensic accountants documenting every questionable transaction with precision to support potential criminal referrals if warranted. If production money diverted to personal expenses or unrelated ventures, that's criminal fraud, carrying serious prison time. Netflix's forensic accountants documenting every questionable transaction with precision to support potential criminal referrals if warranted. The major crisis destroyed any remaining defensive options. Every attempted response makes things worse. Deny audit results? Netflix releases more granular data. Claim methodology differences? Independent auditors explain why Archewell's methodology was deliberately deceptive. Attack Netflix's motives? Their multi-billion-dollar platform with everything to lose from false accusations. Pivot to victimhood? Can't claim victim status when you committed fraud. Meghan's searching for an angle that works and discovering there isn't one. Opposition has objective data versus subjective spin. Corroborating whistleblowers versus history of dishonesty. No winning move, just variations of losing. The media retrospective has been ruthlessly thorough. Entertainment journalists revisiting every Sussex project with knowledge of real versus claimed metrics. Finding Archewell PR statements directly contradicting Netflix data by orders of magnitude. Meghan's team had claimed groundbreaking cultural impact for content barely registering in metrics. Positioned projects as conversation-defining when sentiment analysis showed most headline viewers never watched. Suggested eager brand partnerships when documents showed companies pulling back on performance concerns. Every historical PR claim re-examined under harsh data light, proving fabrication. Each re-examination another nail in brand coffin. The palace's 18-month investigation uncovered corroborating evidence, making Netflix fraud look like pattern piece. Sources say they have Archewell PR firm communications explicitly discussing massaging metrics and creating better optics around underperforming projects. Documents showing Meghan personally reviewing and approving reports containing known inflated numbers. Evidence that Netflix's uncomfortable performance questions got deflected with spin rather than honest data. Palace isn't releasing documentation publicly, but ensuring Netflix's legal team knows it exists and is available if litigation proceeds. Message: we have corroboration. This was deliberate, systematic deception, not innocent errors. We'll support your case. The commercial partnerships in negotiation evaporated within 72 hours of audit going public. Companies discussing Sussex endorsements pulled offers overnight. Corporate legal advising association with documented fraud creates unacceptable liability and reputation risk. Marketing projections showing name recognition without audience reach deliver zero ROI. Deals potentially worth millions annually disappeared instantly. Existing partners examining exit clauses. WME reconsidering representation value. Remaining charitable partnerships reassessing risks. Commercial infrastructure funding Montecito Lifestyle seized completely. the major crisis reaching point where even devoted defenders go quiet. Sussex Squad spending years attacking critics is fracturing, facing numbers they can't explain. How defend 42 million becoming 4.1 million? How claim media conspiracy when evidence is Netflix's internal data? How maintain truthfulness when whistleblowers say she approved fraudulent reports? Some doubling into absurd conspiracy theories. Most going silent, unable to reconcile defended brand with exposed fraud. That silence from years-long defenders speaks louder than criticism about how indefensible this became. The industry's informal blacklisting through back-channel warnings is more devastating than official. Studio heads sharing Netflix numbers with competitors, agents warning clients from Sussex Association, producers publicizing how shown metrics don't match audit findings, lawyers circulating memos about documented fraud history risks. That network is more powerful than official blacklist because it's impossible to fight, no one to appeal to, just collective understanding Meghan's brand is toxic, team can't be trusted, career-ending reputation damage through whispers, not accusations. Already happened. She's unofficially blacklisted across Hollywood. The end game is total brand destruction because credibility lost at this scale is unrecoverable. Meghan built everything on being authentic voice telling hard truths against corrupt institutions. Netflix proved she was lying about most basic claim. People wanted to hear from her. Can't be authentic truth teller when exposed as systematic deceiver. Can't fight institutional corruption when you were perpetrating it. Can't be voice for millions when data proves millions don't exist. Contradictions too fundamental. Hypocrisy too obvious. Brand doesn't get damaged, gets destroyed completely. No rebuilding from this. Once definitively proven to have built success on lies, major corporations documenting your fraud, whistleblowers confirming intentional deception, you're finished. Not facing crisis, in crisis. And the consequences, legal, financial, reputational, cascade through every aspect of life built on foundation that just got exposed as completely fraudulent. Netflix demanded truth. Meghan had only lies, and truth always wins eventually.